Kana paced up the hallway leading to her grandfather's main office. When she got close to the door, she reached out to knock, but stopped short when she heard her mom's agitated voice from inside. "You can't be serious. Are you serious about reassuring your investors? Because showing them X-ray bending isn't going to do it." She heard her mother start to protest again, only to be cut off by Varric's continual beratement. Kana leaned close to the door as the two continued their heated discussion. "You took 3 technologies that by themselves have remarkable capabilities for both healing and preemptive treatment, and you spent, I don't want to know how much, on combining them into one expensive unit to help just one person." "She's not just one person, Dad," Varys responded with a stern tone. "I know. Help her, and you help us all," he said with a bit of sarcasm in his voice before going on to add, "If this neuro lens of yours has a use for only one person, then get her to explain it to your investors. Otherwise—" Varric was cut off as the doors swung open and Kana quickly stepped into the room and looked at her mother as if she was going to challenge her to an Agni Kai or the waterbender equivalent. "You didn't even tell him!" Kana shouted. Varys started to get upset over her daughter's rude intrusion, but her anger soon turned to concern as Kana staggered into the side of a desk, hitting her knee against its hard frame. She winced in pain, but oddly rubbed the back of her head as if it were the source of her discomfort. Varys brought a chair over to her daughter and urged her to sit. As she sat down, Kana looked up at her mother with imploring eyes and repeated her question in a pained voice. "You didn't even tell him." Varric ignored her all-too-common accident and asked, "Tell me what?" Varys and her daughter stared at each other as if having a silent argument. However, as Kana's resolve seemed to swell, her own began to waver. Varys looked down and replied in a defeated whisper, "Kana believes the neurolens can be used to help awaken dormant bending genes in non-benders." "What? Now we're talking!" After his initial glee, Varric gave his daughter a slightly disapproving look. "You know, if you really wanted my advice, you should have led with that." Kana started to speak, but this time it was her turn to be cut off by her domineering grandfather. "Once you've recovered from your brush with the desk, I want you to continue your research, and I want you to give her access to everything she needs." The latter part was directed at Varys, who began to protest. "I thought Varric Farmer was my baby." "Well, the mouth of your baby is still clamped firmly on the teat of Varric Industries, and as long as the future of our 2 companies are tied together, I will have a say on both." Varric began coughing until eventually he needed to brace himself against the mantle of the fireplace. Kana uncharacteristically attempted to come to his aid, but was waved away. Undeterred, though, she limped to the water fountain to get her grandfather a cup of water that he reluctantly accepted. After a small sip, he calmed down and continued. "Just as Varric Industries is the legacy I leave to my children, so too can Varric Pharmaceuticals be the legacy that you leave to your children." He paused to look at his granddaughter and then back to his daughter before finishing. "But do what you want. Present your benevolent intentions to your investors. However, if your benevolence is met with indifference, I want you to pursue Kana's ambitions, for the sake of your legacy." Kana swelled with satisfaction as she and her mom exchanged looks before Varys turned back to her father and nodded her agreement. Kiri cleared her throat as she, Julie, and little Nene walked in through the open doors. "I think we're about to get started if you 3 are done here," she asked in a worried tone. "Yeah, I'd say so," exclaimed Kana with a newfound sense of purpose. She confidently walked to the door and whispered to her grandmother as she passed by. "Thanks for the advice." Julie slumped her shoulders while shaking her head at the fact that she didn't take the latter half of her advice. Varric, having recovered from his earlier coughing fit, went back to his normal bombastic self. Absolutely, let's get this party started. As beams of dusty light slowly crept up the walls, Dante lay sprawled on the barn floor, using Kage as a cushion. Junior's eyelids fluttered, burdened by the persistent echo of his cousin's earlier taunts. He probably just blood-bends it so it can't run away. "Ha, you're probably right. Hey, blood runt." As the last words ran through his mind, he opened his eyes. Dante's expression went to one of pure horror. He looked up to see his father kneeling over him with his spine painfully arched backwards. Bruises manifested on his skin as Dante Sr. grunted in pain. The head of the ghostly aberration slowly looked toward him with the black orbs of its bleeding eyes. His father pointed an accusatory finger at him shortly before his heart burst. Blood splattered on the face of the frightened young man as his father fell upon him, closer and closer. Dante Jr. sprang up. He reached up to wipe the blood from his face, or rather, the wet snow that dripped through the cracks of the roof. Kage gave him a concerned look, but then stopped to gaze at the door shortly before Lei Song opened it. "Bolin told me I could find you here. I hope I'm not intruding," he said, while taking a few steps inside the barn. The residual shock from his daydream started to fade. "No, I didn't mean to fall asleep anyway. I came to tell you the party is about to start." Junior stood up and brushed the dirt off his clothes. "Yeah, I'm not sure if I should go," Lei Song calmly reassured him. "If you're worried about your cousins, don't be. Your Aunt Kiri took care of them." "What does that mean?" "It means they won't bother you. Maybe while we're here, but wait till we get back north." Junior scoffed. Lei Song switched the topic. "You know, Kage's appearance is quite unique for a polar bear dog." Dante Jr. smiled while gently petting Kage. "Yeah, she didn't go through the process of ontogenetic color change like most of her species. That's why she looks the way she does." Lei Song raised an eyebrow, impressed by Junior's knowledge. "You seem to have a good understanding of the process. Not many people know about ontogenetics." "Well, I spent a lot of time with Kage as a kid when I lived in the southern tribe. Anyway, I started wondering why she looked different from other polar bear dogs. So I read up on it and learned about the factors that trigger the change in color. From what I gathered, it seems Kage, being the runt of the pack, didn't get the vitamins and nutrients she needed to complete the process." The young man rubbed the head of the unique animal sympathetically. Lei Song knew that Junior empathized with Kage and probably thought of himself as a black polar bear dog. He thought of pressing the subject, but decided to change it altogether. "I heard this band is supposed to be pretty good." "Yeah? But they are just playing a few of Grandma and Grandpa's favorite songs, you know, oldies," the young man said, while rolling his eyes. Lei Song let out a brief laugh and then replied, "Well, I for one look forward to hearing an oldie played with a modern touch." The middle-aged man walked back to the door, then, looking over his shoulder, casually asked, "Are you coming?"